So we just went over the best of the 2019 comic books and adaptations as decided by our fans, but for various reasons, mostly to do with the television market of last year, there weren't a lot of comics on that top 10 list. Therefore, I've created my own list of comics only that came out last year that really stood out to me for one reason or another. We're going to be going over them and maybe an extra comic or two over 10, but just the same, we'll be going over some comics. And it should be fun. Before we get into that, be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out our Patreon page in the video description below. Now let's get started. First up is Guts, which sold just about more than any other book that booked in 2019. It's a wonderful graphic novel that helps young women and girls get comfortable with their bodies, mostly in terms of the supposedly gross parts that are really just normal human things. Getting sick, farting and pooping, and expelling other bodily waste. It's excellent, but I am not a young person, so this book did very little for me. But it's worth mentioning because, yeah, it sold more than anything Marvel or DC produced. It's hard to even view it as any sort of independent comic in that regard. But it says a lot about where the potential of this industry lies and what potential markets could be out there for the comic book industry. Naomi was excellent, and an example that Brian Michael Bendis, every once in a while, can not only do a good job, but a fantastic one. This was a great introduction for what could be very much a distinct and fun DC character. Criminal by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips made a return in 2019, and I quite enjoyed it. Brubaker is a legend as always, and Criminal is a fun and thoroughly brutal affair. Absolute Carnage is also worth mentioning, as Donny Cates put together this event that just blew me away. It was a lot of fun, and I still have more of it to read, which I'm looking forward to a great deal. Immortal Hulk was another series that really stood out for Marvel this year, and truly brought with it a mountain of ambition and scale that was breathtaking even by Hulk standards. Die by Kieran Gillen is a solid Image series that came out last year. I'm a fan of tabletop gaming like Dungeons & Dragons myself, and that clearly inspired this series. But Die shows off a whole different and new world that had a strong effect on me emotionally and drew me into its plot in a big way. Stephanie Hans' artwork, which created this world, definitely has a lot to do with this. Batman Last Night on Earth kind of got snubbed from the fan top 10 this year, if you ask me. This was an awesome 3-issue story by legendary teams Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo that features the absolute strongest ending to a story I've ever seen by Scott Snyder, a man I've always felt has struggled in that area. What starts out as a fairly standard post-apocalyptic affair gives way to a sincerely fun comic series I wildly enjoyed. Next up is Invisible Kingdom, Sea of Stars, and Out of Darkness, 3 unrelated indie comics that I have very similar feelings about, so I've sort of lumped together way up at the top here. Though each are different in tone and scope, all are excellent sci-fi stories, and they each explore a lot of cool ideas that show the potential of space adventures that can be done beyond the Star Wars and Star Treks of the world. I had a lot of fun with all of these and would recommend any of the 3, really based on what might appeal to you. G. Willow Wilson's Invisible Kingdom is a lot of fun and does a good job exploring religious ideas and themes with its particular blend of sci-fi. Sea of Stars features Jason Aaron's writing along with excellent artwork, and you pretty much can't go wrong with this one no matter what. Finally, Out of Darkness does a great job blending its take of sci-fi with horror, which is always a lot of fun. They were all great, but what I don't recommend is reading all 3 in close proximity like I did, since it made it really hard to judge between the 3 series, and it's why I've sort of tied them all together even though they are quite distinct. But it's hard to go wrong with any of these, so I don't think there's anything lost with recommending more comics. Last up, and I suppose is the title I most enjoyed outside of House of X, which was on the fan list, is Ice Cream Man. I suspect, however, this one is only going to appeal to the right kind of reader. It's a cool blend of horror as an anthology-style storytelling compared to Twilight Zone and other shows like Black Mirror. I quite liked it, mostly because of its creative take on horror and sensibilities that were right up my alley. But that might just be me, and that was part of my problem with this list and why I've been doing fan votes for the best and the worst of the year for the last couple of years now, because I feel as though my opinion alone doesn't really suffice for something like this. Ice Cream Man really works for me, but that's just gonna be me and might not be for you guys. And I'm sure other people have other number ones throughout the year, so please let me know what your favorite comic was in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.